All right, so hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for being present today. I will first let everyone join and take their time to connect to the call. But thank you all for being present today for the people that already joined. So as you may know, today we are hosting the third edition of this series for international trade fairs. So it's the third year that we do this, and we're going to cover the 2025 trade fairs, in this case, the spring edition. In the meantime, we can just wait maybe one more minute for more people to join, and then we can move on to the webinar. So before we start, let's also take a minute or two to talk about some good practices. So there's a common thing that we do. For example, your microphone will be muted when you join the webinar, but feel free to use the chat in this case to introduce yourself, tell us where you're coming from, and feel free to interact. If you have any questions in this case, we have a Q&A section box in which you can ask any questions that you may have. Also, keep in mind that this session will be recorded, and once the webinar is complete, we will share the webinar with a follow-up also with the slides. And of course, the presentation slides will be provided along with that. Feedback is always welcome, so feel free to always use the chat and the Q&A box to chat. And without further ado, let's have a look at the agenda for today. So I will introduce the COLEAD team in this case, along with our Market Insights department, and also talk to you a bit about the trade fairs that COLEAD was present in, but as well as the ones that Market Insights department has visited. Once that is done, Griffin will talk about some of the major trends and food innovations that were observed during these trade fairs. And after that, Koen will have a look at the positioning of the ACP countries and learnings from one of the key trade fairs that we visited, which is Gulfood. A very insightful experience in this case. We will also then conclude with a Q&A at the end of the webinar, in which all your questions will be addressed, and we'll have a better look at exactly what your questions and such are. So without further ado, I will start with an introduction to COLEAD and its Market Insights team. Well, first of all, let's talk about COLEAD. It's known as the Committee of Liaison for Entrepreneurship, Agriculture and Development. We're a private, non-profit professional association that has already existed for more than 50 years, and we're previously known as COLEAD ACP. In this case, our mission is to implement activities through various programs so we can enhance the agriculture's contribution to sustainable development goals. In this case, our vision is known as Growing People, and it mostly focuses on developing individuals as they are key to agricultural progress. Now, our actions, they aim to strengthen the skills of these individuals and organizations so they can improve their capabilities. We try to enable these groups and others to sustainably access national and regional markets. Now, our work, in this case, it's guided by the implementation of our values, which are commitment, continuous improvement, diversity, performance, and even humanity. We offer a network of businesses, professional organizations, and even experts, which are all committed to inclusive and sustainable agriculture. And this network represents around 500 members. In this case, COLEAD is also known as a toolbox that designs, manages, and implements development programs. And we manage many programs, mainly focused on technical assistance and information, including FM+. Now, who do we work with? So our primary targets are companies that market product in national and regional markets, but we also collaborate with businesses, service providers, training centers, research institutes, and even public services. COLEAD in this case operates in more than 50 countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific, mainly in the fresh fruit and vegetable sector. But recently, our activities have expanded to new countries and agri-food sectors, which now increases the number of target countries up to 140. So a big, big network. Now, for more information, we always invite you to visit our website or even our social media pages. Now, as for the resource center that COLEAD provides, it's a resource center built from more than 25 years of experience and knowledge. And initially, the focus was on food safety, but since then, it has expanded to many other subjects, such as environmental management, food production, and even processing. This has led to the development of cascading training methods, which links external experts to the internal resources of companies. COLEAD has even received the ISO certification for their training management system. And it also demonstrates the commitment that we have to skill development through education, learning, and research. This standard is suitable for training organizations of any size or method, and once again aligns with the COLEAD's vision, which is growing people. Now, COLEAD shares its resources by publishing a training catalog covering many themes, such as environmental management, sustainable production, food safety, business development, plant health, and even more. In this case, all these resources are freely accessible, with some available on request or reserved for COLEAD members and program beneficiaries. The main resources available include e-library, which gives you access to guides and publications, e-learning platform, which is a training platform with modules on many different subjects, a statistics page, which provides with interactive data on many different agricultural productions and trades. We also have a regulations page, which is information via the agri-food program, a self-assessment tool, or even a news page. In addition to these resources, our technical assistance team has in the past offered specific training courses to help prepare for trade shows, often held in January. Although these sessions are not necessarily planned for next year, we encourage you to keep an eye out for other upcoming training courses and workshops, which could be very useful for your participation in the next trade show. So feel free to, again, have a look at the website, our social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on, so you are up to date. So moving on to our holistic approach, in the next slide. In this case, COLEAD takes a holistic approach to developing its programs, and it's centered around three key pillars, as you can see here, which is facilitating market access, strengthening value chain, and leveraging impact. So in this case, the Market Insights Department under the first pillar provides essential resources such as market studies, market profiles, and statistical data in order to help understand market access. Now, the Market Insights Department supports this with research into new generations of phytosanitary products, innovation productions, and ongoing regulatory monitoring to track changes in standards and regulations. As for the second pillar, value chain strengthening, it focuses mostly on building capacity through technical assistance, and this support is delivered both online and on the ground. It also includes professional training, working directly with companies and their teams to strengthen their skills and operations. Finally, the third pillar is known as leveraging impact, and it emphasizes on showcasing businesses' successes. This is done through webinars organized in collaboration with PAFO in Africa, ICA in the Caribbean, and PIFON in the Pacific. It also involves participation in research programs via the Networks and Alliance Department and facilitating business growth through the Access to Finance Department. Now, all these three pillars are supported by a set of digital tools and resources. These are, again, provided through a comprehensive toolbox available not only for beneficiaries of COLEAD's programs, but any other stakeholder, whether they are COLEAD members or not. Now, Moving on to our department, the Market Insights department. In this case, we currently consist of 5 people, and we collaborate with a network of independent experts as well as the expertise of our own members. We collect and cross-reference data, which we try to then store on dedicated platforms that allows for the creation of interactive dashboards. We follow the latest developments in the agri-food sector and share information and analysis gathered from trade shows, as well as via social media. In this case, we produce publications, reports on various aspects of trade and supply chains, which we then present during webinars such as this one. And if you're interested, a list of upcoming webinars will be presented at the end of this one. Finally, we transform this data into actionable insights and support business development by helping companies access new markets and facilitating meetings with new clients or suppliers. So now that you have an idea of COLEAD and the Market Insights department, we can have now a look at the trade fairs of 2025 and mostly also where you could find us during this year, and you will find us. So for 2025, we've put together this table, which pretty much lists the main trade fairs that COLEAD will be participating in or has participated. So you'll see we'll be there present either as an exhibitor or a visitor. And now for some of these you'll recognize well. We've been exhibitors for many years. I'm thinking, of course, of Fruit Logistica at Berlin, BIOFACH in Nuremberg, or even more recently, Fruit Attraction in Madrid. These trade fairs are truly the most important in our sector, which are entirely dedicated in fresh or even processed fruits and vegetables. BIOFACH in this case, more in bioproducts. But we're not stopping there. Other fairs are increasingly catching our attention, especially in Africa, such as SARA in Côte d'Ivoire, IFTEX in Kenya, which specializes in flowers, or even the Ghana Horticulture Expo. Agroalimentaria in the Dominican Republic has caught our attention, and we were exhibitors there. But we're also present at Gulfood in Dubai, which is known for the biggest trade fair for food and beverage in the world. So we really have expanded our reach. Finally, COLEAD is broadening its area of interests because now we're also participating in more specialized fairs. For example, seafood, which is dedicated to seafood products, or even MPAC, which is a fair focus on packaging. Now that you have a look at the participation of the trade fairs, I think we can now have a closer look at the major international trade fairs that we participated in, as in our department. So these significant professional trade fairs happen every year, primarily across Europe and the Middle East, as well as in Africa. Their duration varies, usually lasting anywhere from 3 to 7 days, and they attract a considerable number of visitors. So to give you an idea of their scale, Fruit Logistica and Gulfood are the main leaders in terms of visitor. It's also worth mentioning the consistency of visitors from last year to year 2025. As you can see, it hasn't changed much or even went up, for example, for Macfrut. To give you also an idea, the trade fairs offer exhibition spaces of varying sizes. It can directly impact the number of exhibitors. So on that note, 2 fairs particularly stand out for the smaller volume of exhibitors. In this case is IFE, which actually has witnessed a rise in exhibitors this year, or even Macfrut. Now, when it comes to the number of countries represented, 3 fairs lead the way. In this case, IFE has also seen a rise in representation by more than 10%, and for Logistica had the most countries represented with 145. In this case, it's also worth mentioning that Macfrut saw a big drop in the representation this year. But these variations in participation or attendance can be explained by several factors. It might be due to the proximity of dates between certain events, such as Fruit Logistica and BIOFACH being 1 week away, or strategic choices on parts of exhibitors or visitors, or even a decision to reduce investment in specific trade fairs. So now that you had a good observation of the analysis for trade fairs in 2025 and where we were present, I will pass the word to my colleague Griffin, which will now talk to you a bit about the main trends and innovations that we were observed during our visits in the trade fairs. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tiago, for that beautiful introduction. Now, we'll look at the major trends in the trade fairs that you've attended. So, during this trade show, the same consumer and innovation trends observed at most events. And these trends were confirmed as we visited more and more shows. So the keywords are health, innovation, sustainability, consumer demand for nutrient-rich food, and so on. So they continue to grow, driven by the increase in awareness and overall well-being. So many superfoods were promoted during the trade show. It's a word we saw everywhere. So berries and red fruits, such as acai and other berries, but also foods of African origin, such as moringa powder and baobab, are attracting a lot of attention. So we also saw the super processed products packed with healthy foods. So beyond individual superfood, consumers are looking for functional foods designed to meet specific needs, such as digestion, better sleep, immunity, high protein content, etc. This applies to any form, be it smoothie powders, snacks, drinks, and such things. The availability of alternatives for animal protein continues to also grow as consumers move away from traditional meat sources. So they include plant-based alternatives, but also the insects, for example, in the form of crisps, powder, which are better for the planet. So, sorry, it's a bit lagging. So there's also a growing importance of sustainability, especially in packaging. So the industry continue to increasingly turn to compostable and recyclable packaging, which is the subject of numerous conferences at trade shows, and new European regulations will make it mandatory in the coming years. So there is also a growing importance. There's also a growing AI revolution in the food industry. So AI is fundamentally changing the way food companies operate, transforming production, logistics, and product development in response to consumer demands and trends. So now let's look closer at what the innovations presented at the trade fair show. So innovations included, for example, new colors, new shapes, consumer desire for discovery. Consumers want to discover new flavors, new products, etc. So one example is Del Monte, with a niche variety of pineapples. They are pushing the boundaries of premium pineapples, varieties with the introduction of pineapple varieties such as the Ruby Glow, following the successes of the Pink Glow and the Honey Glow. So this variety the Ruby Glow variety was first presented in Fruit Logistica in 2024 and stands out because of its bright red color and premium appeal. Pink Glow, which is genetically modified, is not allowed in the European market. Another thing is the onyx red oranges, which stand out because of their deep burgundy color and are superior in quality. So they have a familiar sweet taste of citrus fruits and are seedless, which makes them more convenient and healthy choice for consumer. The skin is also very resistant, ensuring durability during transport, which makes it an important factor. So continuing with the idea of new discovery, there's also the Halloween mandarins, which are presented at Fruit Logistica as a fun take on traditional mandarins. So transformed into mini pumpkin and eye-catching, more playful packaging, which is an appeal to the younger consumers. Other innovation focus was mostly on sustainability, being better for the environment, reducing food waste, etc. So, for example, Aosta has launched a new approach to promoting their avocados. So, avocado cultivation is often criticized for their high water consumption. So, Aosta has introduced more communication and marketing about the use of rainwater for their production. So, this method reduces the environmental impact of avocado cultivation, but also responds to the growing demand for environmentally friendly products. Another example is the Samantha cabbage. So it's some sort of a compact pointed Milan cabbage, which is sweeter in taste than traditional variety. It's small in size, which reduces the food waste and makes it easier to handle, store, and cook, which also meets the consumer demand for convenience. Another example of new varieties is the Aldina strawberries. So what is interesting about this is that they're there in the year-round production. So they have a longer shelf life and improved transportability. So they also reduce waste from production stage to the consumption stage. Also on the food innovation. So the last category of innovation that we have selected is it's not entirely new. It has been highlighted in different trade shows and continues to grow. And we can see that. Sorry, I am having lagging issues with my computer. Mhm. Can you see, Tiago, can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it, and you can talk about the liquid spices. We see it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so there's another form of liquid spices. So they're presented as an easier to use than fresh spices, and they mix better with other liquids in sauce or drinks than dried spices. So an example is the classic spices such as ginger, uh, garlic, and chilies, but also superfoods that we mentioned earlier. So in the healthy and original snack category, every trade fair featured a host of healthy and convenient products. Examples included the avocado spreads mixed with tropical fruits, and fruit snack made from coconut and mango puree. Uh, these products won the awards for the best snack stroke bakery products category. Another one is the York Mango Oat Milk, which won the first prize in the healthy product category at the trade fair Gulfood in the Middle East. So I'll invite Kun to take us through the other section on the position of ACP countries. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Griffin. Yes, so I will take you through some slides where we will focus on the ACP countries' position in the various trade fairs we visited during the first 6 months of this year. And I will talk about our observations with regards to opportunities and challenges for ACP origins and products. So here on the slide, we collected some statistics about the trade fairs that we visited, and especially the ACP countries. We don't have any statistics for IFE, the trade fair in London, because they were not available, and also the ones of Gulfood are not very available or precise, but it already can give an idea. And so, yeah, in general, we can see that there is a good and a growing presence of ACP origins and their companies and BMOs exhibiting their leading products at the major trade fairs, especially in Europe. And we also noticed that companies seem to have like a selective approach when it comes to European and non-European trade fairs. So what I said at IFE, we were in London, but we were also in Gulfood in the United Arab Emirates. And we felt that ACP exhibitors were remarkably absent. And we don't know exactly why this could be, and maybe it's they are guided by the target market, and or maybe there is too much competition on other markets, or there is a lack of knowledge about these other markets, or it's due to a lack of investment, or maybe just simple reasons like there was an overlap in time between the fairs in Europe and the fair in Dubai, for example. We don't know exactly, but we can see that there is a much bigger presence in the European trade fairs. And yeah, if we look at the individual fairs, we can notice that, for example, for Fruit Logistica, there was quite a peak in 2024. This year, there is a slight decline in exhibitors at Fruit Logistica, in ACP exhibitors. While on the other hand, for Macfrut, we can see a strong growth, both in number of countries that were present as in number of exhibitors. And yeah, I think for Macfrut, this is the result of a very active promotion and recruiting by the organization of the trade fair, but also by the support given by its partners, such as the Italian Trade Agency, so that can have a positive impact on the ACP representation. Okay, so if you look on the next slide, we can talk about some opportunities we spotted. So yeah, as Griffin already said, well, let's first look at the established products. So we see that the African origins and products are well represented, and they're becoming more and more established in certain categories. For example, for West Africa, we have typically the mangoes from, for example, Ivory Coast and Mali that are very present, pineapples and coconuts from, for example, Ghana. And the East African countries were showcasing their avocados, their fresh vegetables, such as the green beans or the peppers from Rwanda. But yeah, there are many good exporters in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and so on. And then from Indian Ocean, we had also some representation. There are the Victoria pineapple, but also some other, maybe more recently introduced products from these origins. For example, blueberries and walnuts from Mauritius. And of course, Madagascar, we met different trade fairs with vanilla. And then we had some other origins promoting to make themselves known as offering new alternatives to conventional products, such as, for example, Mauritania, that was promoting its watermelons, butternut, squash, and other melons. And there was, for example, Dominican Republic that was showcasing some alternatives to the common mangoes, which are like small niche varieties, such as Crema de Oro, Mignolo, Banilejo. So that's also an opportunity, we think, and these countries are taking it. Besides that, as Griffin already mentioned, we have the ongoing trend of superfoods. And there are also opportunities for African products. For example, we have oils. We had avocado oil from East Africa. We have marula oil, for example, from Zimbabwe. And we have drinks and powders such as hibiscus drinks or baobab powder or moringa powder that can also be used in drinks or other smoothies or food products. We have the spices, and there was, for example, ginger powder from Togo that was also has very good health qualities, and it was recently introduced. Or we had the fresh turmeric, for example, from Tanzania, which is also very increasingly popular for its health benefits. And so, yeah, many of these healthy superfoods are also organic certified. And for example, the BIOFACH trade fair was really a common choice to present them. So that's a nice fair to present organic, smaller products in Germany. And then if we look at the exhibitions outside of Europe, we see that Gulfood in Dubai is really a very large fair. It's the largest in the world for fruit and food and beverages. So it's fruit and vegetable, but it's much more than that. It's also like fresh. It's meat, it's beverages, it's cereals, it's dairy. So fresh fruit and vegetables is just a part of it, but still it's a very big fair. And we found that maybe it's a bit a missed opportunity so far, because we saw very few ACP exporters. And yeah, it's very close to the African continent. So it could actually be, in our eyes, an opportunity to be there and to learn about the Gulf countries and to establish local contacts. So that's an opportunity that fair still is untapped, I think, for our ACP exporters. And yeah, for us, it was very rewarding to be there, very insightful, and we will share a few insights in the next slides with you. But finally, first, I will still talk about sea transport in the one slide up, Griffin. Yeah. So we see an opportunity because Africa is modernizing quickly its port infrastructure. Although maybe at an uneven speed, we see that West Africa is becoming more advanced than East Africa. And there are big investments. For example, DP World from the United Arab Emirates, and which is an international specialist in port management, has just announced big investments in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in Senegal in deep water port infrastructure. So that's really an asset for greater attractiveness of the shipping companies. And so they can offer more services. And also they are investing more and more in road and sea services combined. So they take advantage of this better port infrastructure and better quality of the international road networks. So there are opportunities to, yeah, for growing exports with these companies. And then we can go to the next slide, which are some challenges we observed that are still there. So yeah, there is still the competition on prices. Inputs and transport costs have still remained a challenge. They're high during the current geopolitical uncertainties, such as the ongoing war in Ukraine, the crisis in the Middle East, including the insecurity in the Red Sea, and so on. So yeah, that's one thing. And especially ACP exporters, they kind of often have the inability to achieve economies of scale because their company sizes are a bit smaller. So it makes difficult for them to absorb these extra costs. And another challenge we see is that they have a difficulty maintaining consistent product quantity and quality throughout the whole season, which is often required by overseas importers. There is optimized sea and air logistics. So in the sea transport sector, we see alliances between major companies to promote more competitive offers and meet the needs of shippers of all points in the world. There are refrigerated containers, there is real-time traceability of loads, there is door-to-door service, and so on. And they have, they are, you know, committed to align with the low carbon requirements of the European Union by using liquid natural gas powered ships that limit CO2 emissions and so on. But it's still a bit difficult for small exporters to profit from these services because they often don't achieve the necessary volumes, you know, to fill up a container and all of that. So the challenge is still to organize and to consolidate volumes of different producers and to organize better the local level logistics to be able to profit from this optimized sea and air logistics. In the air freight transport, we see that airlines are investing in more fuel efficient aircrafts and optimizing their capacity offerings based on the available volumes. But challenges here are the competition with products of higher value that can also be transported by these airlines. So there is a bit of a competition between fresh and processed products. For example, pre-packaged or fresh cut, where it's easier to guarantee the quality during the transport than for fresh. And also air freight is often affected by the political stability of countries or regions, so that can be a challenge. On market access, when it comes to, yeah, it's always a challenge to catch up with the requirements that evolve in terms of social aspects or public quality standards, phytosanitary regulations, or the necessary private certifications for some markets. So that's another challenge. And then finally, the low trade fair presence is a bit a challenge. Yeah, we saw that there was indeed, as I said before, a low presence of ACP exhibitors at some fairs such as IFE or Gulfood, and even the traditional EU fairs. Yeah, the ACP countries are still a bit underrepresented. And we gave some explanations before, but maybe other reasons could be that ACP exporters are also maybe refocusing on fast growing local and regional markets, which are also lucrative and might be less restrictive at the regulatory level and need less investments, especially in times when external financial support is scarce. It could be a solution. And yeah, the limited size of companies could be another reason why they're not always, you know, able to meet expectations of overseas buyers that look for large volumes of consistent quality. So those are the challenges. And now I will move to some learnings from Gulfood, from our attendance to Gulfood. So it was the first time we attended Gulfood in the Arab Emirates, and yeah, I think it could be nice to share some insights with all of you. So we learned a bit about the local markets in these countries. So we visited United Arab Emirates, but I think it's very similar for the other Gulf countries. So basically the market, the consumers market is split in two big segments. So we have the low income segment, which holds the majority of the population. And it's really like almost like 60% of the consumers, and they aim at low cost products. So they typically buy it in local mini markets in the neighborhoods where they live. And there is a real strong competition in this segment on prices, and big competitors are China, Vietnam, India, Turkey, Pakistan. So in this segment, the certification requirements are really minimal. So it's enough if products have the basic SPS, like phytosanitary standards that are the rule to enter the country. And besides that, nothing else is requested. The price is really the driving factor. So we are looking at high volumes at low prices and a very competitive market. And yeah, the mini markets I talk about, you can see a picture on the right. It's like this. This is a typical mini market in the Muhaisna neighborhood in Dubai. So it's a neighborhood which has a large community of Indian blue collar workers, and they buy their products in these little mini markets, and the mini markets source it from the wholesale market. And then on the other side, you have the high income segment, where volumes are smaller, but prices are much higher. And here we notice that products really come from a very wide wide range of origins. And they're all, they're sold at premium prices. And here in this segment, quality is really critical. And as a way of, assuring this quality, the consumers put a lot of trust in the origin of the product. So the consumers see if it's a European product, okay, they feel safe because it applies to the European standards for quality, or if it comes from Australia, for them, that is like already a guarantee of the quality. On the other hand, we see that certification is growing in importance, like global GAP is already commonly required, but it's less important than the product origin. So organic certification can provide a competitive advantage, but there's not so much demand. And for example, private standards such as environmental or other social sustainability standards, there is not much demand yet. So it's a bit different than the European market. But we think that in this segment, there is potential for new exporters to penetrate the market. But it should not be underestimated that the quality requirements are nevertheless quite high. And as an example, you have, for example, the picture down, which is the Spinneys. It's just a typical supermarket in a white collar neighborhood, which is the Jumeirah Park in Dubai. And you have Carrefour, Spinneys, you have many of these with a big fresh section with a lot of products from many origins. Okay. And so some other insights we got from our visit in Dubai is like, okay, so how to enter the market? Which is the right partner to choose? And when we talk with different people at the fair, we heard like more positive echoes about wholesalers. So typically the choice is between wholesalers or retailers. And wholesalers, they are set to offer better prices and are more flexible in terms of payment, like in their payment terms. And also a wholesaler can be a strong local partner. So they can actively promote your product to the retailers or other buyers, and they can help you to establish a foothold in the market. So it's also of their interest to make sure that your product takes off, and they can help you in the marketing. While retailers are seen to be a bit more tough in the negotiation, and they often are less involved in product promotion, so they will just put your product in their shops, and if it goes, it goes, and if it will not find a good market, it will just be dropped. So they will not invest so much in the promotion, but the advantage is that they give you direct access to a very large number of consumers. And so there are no intermediaries, and this allows you to build some brand recognition and direct relationships with the consumer. So these are the two main choices, and their pros and cons. Also, something that came back is the importance of risk management. So it's like any market, but especially in the Middle East, I think it's important to do some due diligence, because if you are an export and you say I have this and this and this product, you will have immediately a lot of buyers. But it's really important to check the credibility and the reliability of these buyers. So the main advice is to meet them in person. And if you're not able to meet them in person, maybe you could ask help of a specialized company. For example, there are specialized firms that do due diligence checks of buyers. So that could be a useful thing to do. But the best way is still to meet them in person and make sure you have an honest person in front of you. And of course, to only accept advance payments, to not give credit, to take an insurance that also helps to mitigate risk. And yeah, another simple advice is just to work with well-established companies. So companies with a solid reputation that exist for many years, because they will not just disappear or run with your money and your products. Voila. And from your side, you have to be sure that you are able to deliver the requested volumes at the requested quality, and that your supply is stable. So that's a challenge, to reach certain export volumes. And sometimes maybe grouping products from different producers can help to reach these volumes. And we think that Gulfood is really a good occasion to meet retailers and wholesalers in person, because you can see the icons on the right. The top group are wholesaler, the down group is retailers, and we met all of them and the representatives at the trade fair. So it's really a good place to get direct contacts and establish a network. Okay, and then on the next slide, I will talk about logistics. Also here we got some insights from Gulfood. So yeah, there is plenty of logistic options to reach the Gulf countries markets. And the choice really depends on the shelf life of your product and of course the destination. So if we look at the different destinations, some of the main entry points are the United Arab Emirates. And this can be easily reached with sea freight and both air freight. So there is the Jebel Ali seaport, there is Dubai and Al Maktoum airports. And the Emirates are also really a hub country for further distribution of fresh produce among all the Gulf countries. So it's a destination market, but it's also a really important hub country. And then we have Saudi Arabia, where there are important ports. For example, the Jeddah is the biggest port on the Red Sea side. And then on the Persian Gulf, so on the other side, you have the Daman port, the port in Daman. Both they provide a direct access to the Gulf countries' largest consumer market, which is Saudi Arabia. And they are perfect for containers of goods that are like entirely destined for the Saudi Arabian market. So it's not as it's more interesting for direct volumes than for transit. While Qatar, on the other hand, is another example of a hub country. So there you have both sea freight and air freight transshipment options, and from there it can be again spread to the different other countries. Also, Oman provides some options. For example, if the Red Sea is disrupted or there are delays, you can ship to Sohar or Salalah harbor, which have a bonded corridor to the Arab Emirates. So that's an alternative option for shipping. And if we look at the transport modes instead of the destination, if you look at transport, we can see that so there is a choice between full sea freight, which is the cheapest, but also the slowest. So that's good for products with a longer shelf life, such as avocados, mangoes, citrus, onions, potatoes, and so on, which can be transported in controlled atmosphere reefers. And then there is the option of sea freight combined with air freight. And that's actually a great alternative for goods which have a shorter shelf life. And of course, goods that support mid-route handling. So it cuts the full air freight prices by half. And you can make use of countries such as the United Arab Emirates, which have very good hub facilities. And this is ideal solution for example, berries or fine beans or baby corn, even flowers, and so on. And then there is full air freight, which is the preferred option for products that have a very short shelf life when you talk about less than 72 hours, for example. And again, here you have many good airports in the Gulf countries, such as in United Arab Emirates or Qatar, where we have big cargo service providers such as Emirates, Sky Cargo, or Etihad, or Qatar Airways, cargo, and so on, with very well-equipped facilities and services. Lastly, regarding the trade agreements and the tariffs, we learned that United Emirates and United Arab Emirates and Qatar, they have foreign trade agreements with many countries that allow lower duties. And Saudi Arabia has actually 0 duties, but they have a slightly stricter customs, sanitary, phytosanitary standards called the SASO standards. So that's a bit a challenge. But in general, we could say if you plan to serve multiple Gulf states, it's interesting to clear customs in the United Arab Emirates, which has like a single window, fast re-export, paperwork, and so on. And then you could truck from there. Or if it's like country-specific volumes, for example, just destined for Saudi Arabia or something, I would say land directly at the consumer market's own port and avoid the double handling. So these were some of our insights we got from the visit of Gulfood. And hereby I will conclude this very short webinar, but we have still a few minutes in case there are questions. I see already a few questions came in. So I will just read them and read their answers. So one of the questions that came in is if there are any organizations that support or finance all or part of the participation cost of certain companies to the trade fairs. And yes, indeed, there are several organizations that are an integral part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Development Cooperation in Europe. So there is in the Netherlands, you have the CBI. In Germany, you have the IPD, in Switzerland, SIPO. In UK, you have Aid Direct. In Japan, JICA. There are many, AICS in Italy. All are organizations that can provide you support. And there are also international business support organizations, so as for example, ITC from the United Nations, with the She Trades program, especially focusing on female actors in the fruit and vegetable business. And there are consultancy companies that can provide you support, such as Profound, and they have a specific stand on BIOFACH, where they support African exporters to join them. And then there was a question of Edith Jaravani on how Zimbabwean smallholder farmers can access foreign markets. So yeah, one good advice we could say is to contact your national support organizations. So such as in Zimbabwe, we have Zimtrade, or for example, a National Exporters Association. In Zimbabwe, we have the Horticultural Development Council. Or you can contact COLEAD. We have also free access training modules on how to access international markets, and including some modules to prepare you to participate to trade fairs, where you can find advice. And you can also contact us. We can try to help you further. And then there was a question from Tima Herbs in Uganda, which was present at Macfrut 2025, and they ask, how is the future of fresh herbs in the EU market? Yeah, so indeed, fresh herbs was a product that was promoted by Macfrut since 2 years now, and we see a good demand in the European market. The number of exhibitors is also growing, which shows the interest at the trade fair and from the general public. And the question is to, I'm just reading the answer a moment that my colleague gave here. Oh yeah. So one of the advice is to make sure you don't bring in the fresh herbs at the same season than the European production. So to avoid competition, and of course to find the right buyer and make sure your quality is consistent. And while you bring to the product all the way to the market, to make sure you maintain its quality. And I don't see any other questions, so I don't know if there are others.
No, if I may, there is no other questions at this time, except we have a question which was not apply, I would say, to the subject. I think it was from Mrs. Or Mr. Emeka Obata. It was more technical questions on the products, on the trees and so on, and we invite him to contact COLEAD, and we will transfer the info to our colleagues of the research and innovation departments.
Okay, so then we can just have a quick look at the next slides and before we close. So here we share again some useful links to the resources Tiago introduced at the beginning of the webinar. We will share the slides with the links, so feel free to check out our website, our analytics page, the e-library, e-learning, and the agri-info platform, where you can find all updates on EU regulation, quite interesting. For the EU market, of course. And then last but not least, I would like to invite you for our next webinars. So there is one on the 16th September. The date might change a little bit, but keep an eye on our news, and where we will discuss the state of play of West African fruit and vegetable trade. And on the 25th of November, we are having a webinar on packaging, where we'll discuss the new regulations, the new EU regulations, and then innovations for fruit and vegetables trade and marketing with regards to packaging. So those are the next ones coming up this year. And by that, I would like to thank you.
Yes, good. Before we close up, we have a questions. Can a trainer for trade fairs participate in your training for MSMEs capacity building? Yeah, I mean, yes, you can participate, but it depends on how. Is it on? Yes, you can, but this has to be decided by our colleagues from the training department, and I invite you to contact them directly and to see with them whether you could access to this training session. There is another question: sample of some fresh herbs having much demand for the EU market.
Yeah, we can do some additional research on that, and give you some examples, but we will keep it in mind.
Yeah, yes, all these questions and answer will be sent to you afterwards with the presentation. Okay.
All right. So thanks a lot, and thanks for joining us. We end sharp on time, and any other questions, we will reply them via email. We will also send you the link to the recording of this webinar and the slides. So feel free to share it with who could not join us today. And see you next time. Bye.